through it.
It's actually funny. I had a leader that I really respected in my early days in the military, and whilst I was in training, and he kind of jokingly said that 90% of your time will be spent on 10% of your soldiers.
Fast.
And you know, call me dead, but in the corporate world, it's no different.
No
And in
different.
life, just in our personal lives,
It's
you
no
know,
different.
and yeah. And so I guess understanding that and knowing it, I guess, because you've been through so many iterations after a certain point of building a new team and getting it up to high performance, and then, you know, doing some pretty funky stuff, that you start to see it, and you start to see those patterns, and you go, yeah, you know, the only thing that's constant in all of this is me, and the choices I'm making. So, you know, everything is a choice.
It's interesting, you know, after enough experience, you know, and you rose up the ranks, you know, as an executive, I was the opposite of that, right? I would try to spend 90% of my time with my absolute stars. I wanted to be around them. I wanted to listen to them. They taught me. I learned what they were doing, and then I could go spread it everywhere else. You know, I found that if I put time in to take obstacles out of a star's way, they would give you 5x the results. Whereas if you took obstacles out of the bottom 10%, you know, they would give you 5% better than what was already bad.
Well, they just find more obstacles sometimes.
Or they throw more obstacles in front of you and ask you to do their job. So I got to a place, you know, where as an executive, I spent all my time with my best on the phone all the time in their markets, right? And not to a place where I was hovering over them. I was just listening. I was trying to, what are you doing? What's your thoughts on this? What's working for you? Because then you can go take that and spread it throughout the rest of the organization, right? You learn so many little best practices, little things they're doing that everyone else isn't, that you can go get those ideas out to the rest of the people. So I just naturally gravitated away from the people that weren't getting results and spent my time with the people that were worthy of spending my time with.
Yeah. I think the other thing I learned, and I definitely think it relates to, you know, corporate, military, and personal life, is the value of context. You know, and I kind of threw the term out during that, funny enough, that ADX seminar I was talking about, which with context comes clarity. And I guess the key point I learned from that was the times when my staff were most frustrated with me were during the times they didn't know how or why we were doing something. Those two key bits of information. I'd either leaned entirely into explaining why we're doing something and hadn't put enough meat on the bones in terms of explaining the sequencing and the steps and the expectations, or I'd gone straight into delivery and gone, you know, the expectations and the roles and the tasks, and I hadn't explained why we're doing this in the first place. And so if I could talk to a younger version of me, I would say spend that extra 60 seconds on every engagement you have with people to explain the context about how and why you're doing something. And if you can cover off on both of those things, it'll cover 90% of the problems before they even start.
Love it. I love that. And, you know, even a step further than that, you get enough of their peers involved in coming up with the idea in the first place, then you let them explain it to everyone else, right? Then you're not explaining anything, right? It's you guys told me this idea, you came up with it, I'm just blessing it. So why don't you help me roll it out to your peers? You guys can teach it, you can train it. But your point is perfect on context and clarity. Just, you know, get people to understand why you're thinking what you're doing. So many in the corporate world, there's so many people that believe that information should be indexed. It should be their title gives them some kind of admission to information that others shouldn't be privy to. And it's just a really broken way of thinking. There are some bits of information that you have to compartmentalize, right? There are some trade secrets. There are some financial things that you don't want to share with people because it might freak them out, right? But 95% of what happens behind a manager's closed door, an executive, is not that, it's not that interesting, right?
Yeah,
It's not that interesting.
It's funny.